Good morning, dear students. In the last video, we have discussed about in human reproduction about spermatogenesis and oogenesis. The same type of gametogenesis we will study in angiosperms. That is formation of microsporogenesis and megasporogenesis. Along with that, structure of microsporangium, this development of microsporangium, along with this process megasporangium, structure of megasporangium and development of megasporangium. Okay, so in theory, what type of questions they will ask also in KCET and NEET. The points we will discuss in this video. Okay, so we are talking about androecium and gynoecium. Okay, so androecium and gynoecium are reproductive whorls of the flower. What they are? They are reproductive whorls of flower, in which androecium is a male part and gynoecium is a female part, remember. Okay, this androecium consists of stamens. Okay, how a stamen look like? You just observe here. This is a particular stamen, okay, in which this bulge part is called anther and this stalk like structure is called a filament. Okay, so usually in angiosperms this anther is bilobed, or these lobes are called theca, or you can say that it is dithecous. Okay, so in each particular theca or in each particular lobe you will observe chambers like this. So this is one particular anther. Okay, this is one particular lobe and this is another particular lobe, dithecous. In a particular lobe or theca you will observe two chambers. Those chambers are called pollen sacs. Also they are called microsporangium. They are called microsporangium. So how many microsporangiums are there? There are 4 microsporangiums are present in bilobed anther, remember. So anthers are called tetrasporogenids. They are called tetrasporogenids. When you cross section this, you will find these type of structures, or else you can see these structures here. and this is a one particular microsporangium. This is one particular area, you can see here. So this is one particular microsporangium. Like that, in all over the four sides, these microsporangium structures are present. Okay. So this microsporangium, it is circular in appearance. It is circular in appearance. Remember, okay. It consists of 4 layers of cells. It consists of 4 layers of cells. What are those 4 layers of cell? We will discuss here. The first outermost layer of cell is epidermis. You can see here. This is the outermost layer of a cell, epidermis. Below the epidermis or inside to it epidermis, the second layer is called endothecium. The second layer is called endothecium. Next, inside to that or below that, there is a middle layer. There is a middle layer, and the lastly tapetum. The lastly tapetum. These are the 4 layers which are present in each microsporangium. Out of these 4, epidermis, endothecium and middle layer has protection function and helps in dehiscence of anther. Dehiscence of anther means when anther maturates and dehydrates, it opens, it bursts, so that the pollen grains which are produced inside these sacs, these pollen sacs, the pollen grains are produced. Pollen grains are also called as microspores. Okay, so they can release outside. So it is called dehiscence of anther. Next, the important thing is that this tapetum. So this tapetum provides nourishment to developing pollen grains. It provides nourishment to the developing pollen grains. Okay, for that purpose, the cells of these tapetum, they have dense cytoplasm, and they are multinucleated. They are multinucleated. Okay, so it has to produce more numbers of transcripted products. That is why the nucleus number increases, and for the metabolic activities the cytoplasm is dense or heavy. Okay, so this is about the structure of a microsporangium. In theory exam, this question asked for 5 marks. Okay, in that you have to draw this diagram. You have to label epidermis, endothecium, then tapetum, middle layer. Inside the tapetum you will find a sporogenous tissues. Okay, this is particularly called connective. So this connective I will explain in the NEET concept. What is this connective? Okay, so this labeling along with this explanation you will get 5 marks. Or for 1 marks purpose, they will ask about a tapetum. What is the function of tapetum, or what is tapetum? They will ask about the tapetum. Or in KCET, they will ask the orderly arrangement of cell from outside to inside. They will give number of options. okay, in which you have to select from outside to inside. Means first it should be epidermis, second it should be endothelium, next it should be this middle layer, and the innermost should be tapetum. It should be first, it should be second, it should be third, and it should be fourth, like that. So you have to remember. Okay, so this is called dehiscence, anther dehiscence, where there is a rupture of these all anther cells, cell layers, and there is a release of these pollen grains. Remember. Okay, then the next thing is this each microsporangium is composed of sporogenous tissues. These sporogenous tissues, they have a potentiality to developed as MMC, microspore mother cells. So this microspore mother cell will act as myocytes which can produce microspores. Okay, so that process is called microsporogenesis. Remember, these microspore mother cell are diploid in number, and these microspores are haploid in number. In the last class we have discussed that whenever a diploid cell divides to produce haploid cell, there should be a meiotic cell division, because microspores are always in this condition. It is a statement, all these gametes, they must be in this haploid condition. If the organism itself is a haploid, okay, you can take in first year you have studied about haploidtic cycle, diploidtic cycle, haplodiploidtic cycle. In that, haploid organism produces haploid gametes by mitosis. Okay, so but in this process meiosis or meiotic cell division take place. Okay, so what happens here, when this microspore mother cell forms, it attains a first meiosis, which gives two haploid cells, and these haploid cells again divides into second meiosis. As a result, you will get 4 haploid cells, but those haploid microspores at initial, they will attach with each other. That is why they are called microspore tetrad. When anther matures, these they dehydrate, the water is removed from that, then these microspore tetrads, they will separate, and then they will call as pollen grains. They will separate, becomes microspores. Okay, at that time this layers, this epidermis, endothelium and middle layer, all they become dehiscents. Okay, they will open after dehydration, and these pollen grains are released freely outside. Okay, so this is about microsporangium. So you have to practice this diagram for 5 marks. Along with that, for 1 marks they will ask this question. Then definition is also important for 1 marks. Microsporogenesis, how they will form and what are the condition of this. Okay, now we will see a little bit deep about this microsporangium diagram, microsporogenesis process, and how this microsporangium actually develops. Okay, so starts with this filaments. Okay, this is stamen. As you know that the flower is a reproductive part of angiosperms. Many of the flower are bisexual. Many of the flower are bisexual. It contains both androecium as well as a gynoecium. But there are some flowers which are unisexual. Okay, so what are those unisexual flowers? If a flower contains only stamens, a flower which bears only stamens, that flower is called staminate flower. That flower is called a staminate flower. So actually that flower is a male flower. If a flower contains only carpels or pistils, that flower is called pistillate flower. That flower is called pistillate flower, and it is a unisexual female flower. Okay. This anther and filament or stamen, the anther, as I told you, it is a bilobed. It is a bilobed or dithecous. Remember, it contains two theca or two lobes. But in a family called Canaceae and Malvaceae, in these families the flower is monothecous. The flower is monothecous. That means it contains only two microsporangium. It contains only two microsporangium. Okay. As these Canaceae and Malvaceae, these families flower anthers has monothecious. They contains only one lobe. Monothecious or unilobes. It contains only two microsporangium. Okay. In a family called Orchidaceae, pollinium type of anthers are present. So what happens in the pollinium type? Basically, these pollinium types are dithecous, but the pollen grains which are present inside which are present inside these dithecous or four microsporangium, when they release all these pollen grains were fused together. Whether these pollen grains from adjacent microsporangium or all the microsporangium, they fuse together and form a single mass. So such type of development is take place in a pollinium type of anthers. When they descend, all are they attached together and produces as a single mass. Okay, so this is about the anther. Okay, now in flowers, the attachment of anthers to the stamens is different. Okay, so different flowers has a different morphology of attachment this stamens with the anther itself. So there are number of types are there based on the attachment of anther to filament. Okay, as you know that this filament and these two lobe of anthers, they are connected with a sterile tissue. That sterile tissue is called a connective. Okay, by means of this sterile tissue, these lobes as well as this filament is connected. But there are number of types are there of this connection. The first type is called basifixed type. The second type is called dorsofixed type. The third type is called subbasifixed type. Then the fourth one is called versatile type. Okay, how these basiphyte, dorsophyte, subbasiphytes and versatile type will observe, we will see here. So this is the first basiphytes. These are the two lobes, okay, and this is the filament from here to here. Okay, so the anther is attached with the filament from base to apex region. From base to apex region, if the filament is attached to this anther, it is called basiphytes. You can observe in mustard plant and dhatura plants. Okay, this type of anthers were seen, or arrangement, attachment of anther to the filament. Okay, then the second type is called dorsophyte type. Okay, this is one lobe. Okay, it is attached here, and this is another lobe. Okay, this is the filament. So this anther is attached with the filaments. This filament is attached with the this anther dorsally and medianly. Mid dorsally, this filament is attached to these lobes of this anther. If that type of attachment is there, it is called dorsophyte. Okay, so you can take the example of Passiflora plant. So this type of attachment is seen in this plant. Next is subbasiphytes. It is just look like this, but these anthers, I can say that this is one lobe, this is another lobe from here to here. Near the base, this filament is attached. Okay, not completely from the base, near the base to the apex. This is apex, and this is not completely base, it is near to the base. This is near to the base. Such a type of attachment, the filaments to the anther, you can see in a subbasiphyte. Okay, you can take the example of Campa, or it is called as Michelia. It is called as Michelia or Campa flowers you observe. Now the versatile type. Okay, this is lobes like that, and this is filament. Okay, so here the anther attached with the filament at free pyote region, free pyote, freely it appears like a flower. Teeters, tutors, this type of arrangement is also called teeters, tutors. So you can take the example of night lily and grasses. Such type of flowers you can observe, these anthers you can observe. So these are the 4 types of attachment of anther to the filaments. Okay, next we move on to the microsporangium diagram. Okay, as we have seen, this microsporangium consists of epidermis, first layer from the outermost, second layer endothelium, second layer below that, and third layer is this middle layer. Okay, and the last one is this tapetum. Okay, so this epidermis is made of epithelial cells. This is the most outermost layer in a particular microsporangium. So these epithelial cells are little bit cuboidal type. Okay. So next, endothecium. This is also a single layer. This is also a single layer of epithelial cells, but they are large. They are larger than these epidermis cells, and they are thickened because it contains a fibrous thickening. Remember, this is very important, the fibrous thickening. This fibrous thickening of endothelium cells provides a tensile force. When anther matures and dehydrated, this tensile force the outermost wall of the anther backward direction, as a result of which this anther descends. Remember, okay. So the tensile force is drawn by endothecium layer of cells because of its fibrous thickening. Okay. The next is middle layer. So it is composed of 3 to 4 further layers. Okay, and this layer, when anther matures, it may disappears. Okay, and the last layer is most important, that is called tapetum. In NCERT, it has given that the tapetum nourishes the developing pollen grains, and for that result it has a dense cytoplasm and they are multinucleated. Apart from that, it has some other functions also. The tapetum secretes enzymes and hormones. The tapetum secretes enzymes as well as hormones. So it has its endocrine function also. The next important is that this produces some of the granules. It produces some of the granules. Those granules helps in the formation of exine layer. These granules helps in the formation of exine layer. Remember, the pollen grains contains exine as well as intine layers. So exine has a chemical called sporopollenin. Yes or no? This is the most resistant chemical which is not degraded by any other enzymes or any other things in the earth. So these granules which helps in the formation of exine layer in pollen grains. Next, it also helps in the secretion, or it secretes pollen kit. In case of entomophilous plants. Entomophilous plants means the plants which are pollinated by insects. So there are properties of the particular pollen grains which are transferred through the insects. Okay, that pollen grains has to be sticky in nature. So pollen kit is a sticky substance. It is actually a sticky coat which is present on the pollen grains. That sticky coat in case of entomophilous plant is produced by tapetum. Okay, and the next is it also produces some of the very important proteins that helps in the compatibility of pollen grains. Okay, in pollen pistil interaction you have studied it about compatible stigma, compatible pollen grains, non-compatible things. If the pollen grains, this stigma decide whether to accept this pollen grain or to reject a pollen grain. These proteins help that compatibility. Okay, so these are the further importance of this tapetum layer. Okay, so this is about these layers of the microsporangium. Now we move to the microsporogenesis process. So what is microsporogenesis? Microsporogenesis, the process of formation of microspores from microspore mother cell. And during this process, which type of cell division occurs? Meiosis type of cell division occurs. Okay, so let's see. In very young anther, some of the parenchymatose cells, they are surrounded by epidermis. When these anthers will start developing, so first layer which is developed is epidermis, okay, which is encloses parenchymatose cells. This is epidermis. Soon this will become, or this forms 4 microsporangium. In that parenchymatose cells, some of the hypodermal cells, they differentiate into archisporial cells. The hypodermal cells, they differentiate into archisporial cells. Okay, archisporial cell divides and differentiate into 2 type of cells. The first is parietal cells, and second is sporogenesis cells. So this sporogenesis tissue which you see here is this sporogenesis cells, or these parietal cells. The parietal cell further divides into 3 layers of cells which you have studied here. One is endothecium, second is middle layer, and third is tapetum. And the sporogenesis cells which has a potentiality to act as microspore mother cell. From that, the meiosis process, that this microsporogenesis process starts. So this one microspore mother cell, it attains a first meiosis and produces 2 haploid microspores, and in the second meiosis these produces 4 microspore. It is called a microspore tetrad. So remember, when anther become matures, this middle layer disappears and the tensile force of endothecium will pull the outermost layer of anther after dehydration, and dehydration, these microspore tetrad will adhere to one another. During dehydration, the water is removed from these microspores and they separated and they release from the anther. Okay, so like this process of microsporangium, structure of microsporangium, microsporogenesis process, the development of microsporangium, and what are the details account of these each cell, along with that the attachment of anther to this filament is very important. In NEET exam, they will ask about these biphisphids, dorsophisphids, okay, versatile, this type of attachment. Then they will ask about these. Okay, so these granules they are Ubish granules. These granules, they are called Ubish granules, which helps in the formation, or helps, or they forms, actually not helps, these granules forms the exine layer of polar grains. You have to remember about these all things for NEET and KCET purpose. Okay, then the next is about female reproductive part, about gynoecium. So where we have studied about these ovule, okay, megasporangium. So now we will discuss about the female part, gynoecium. Okay, so this gynoecium, it consists of carpels, or you can say that pistils. Okay, so one particular pistil, if I draw here, okay, so it consists of three parts. This is stigma, this long stalk like structure is called style, and this is bulge like structure is called ovary, which is placed on thalamus, remember. Okay, inside the ovary you find ovules. Okay, ovule or megasporangium Ovule is a part which is present inside the ovary. After fertilization, ovule becomes a seed and ovary become fruit. Okay, so this ovule is present in ovarian cavities called locules, remember, and this ovule is attached by ovary by means of, remember, by means of placenta. Okay, so the arrangement of this ovules within the ovary is called placentation. In the first year you have studied about the different type of placentation, axial placentation, precentral, marginal. Okay, all these are the examples you have studied it. Okay, so consider, I will draw here. So consider this is placenta, okay, here the ovule is developed. Okay, it's a simple structure of a ovule, you can see here. This is called funicle and this edge is called hilum. This is raphe. Okay, these are the integuments. this is nucellus, and this part is called embryo sac, or also called as female gametophyte. Remember that female gametophyte contains number of cells, and this region is called micropyle region, and opposite to that this is called chalaza region. Okay, so this is a simple diagram of a particular ovule or megasporangium. Okay, so the placenta is attached with the particular ovule by means of funicle. This is stalk-like structure which attaches the ovule at a marginal ridge is called hilum. Okay, inside this funicle there is a straight ridge which connects with the ovule. It's called raphe. Okay, inside the ovule you will get nucellus, a nutritive tissue that contains parenchymatous cells, and these nucellus they are enclosed by two layers that are called integuments. This is outer integument and this is inner integument. Okay, so both these integuments are joined and leave a space at a particular place. That particular region is called micropyle, and opposite to that micropyle is called chalaza region. Okay, next in the micropyle region you will observe the most important structure, that is called embryo sac. It is also called as 7-celled 8-nucleated 7-cell 8-nucleated stage. Okay, but because it contains 7 cells, 1, 2, both are synergetic cells. This is egg. This entire is a central cell, and these 3 are antipodal cells. 3 antipodal cell, 3 plus 1, next 1 plus 2. Okay, these synergetic cells and egg cells together they are called egg aperture. So you can also get a 3 plus 1 plus 3, like that you can tell, or 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2. Okay, so this is about the cell, but the nucleus are 8. 3 nucleus in the 3 antipodal cells, 2 nucleuses in central cell, and 2 nucleus in 2 synergetic cells, and 1 nucleus in egg cell. Remember, so these synergetic cells they contains filiform apertures. Filiform apertures, they guide the pollen tube towards the egg cell. Okay, this is about a theory regarding this ovule. Okay, now we will see little bit deep. Okay, so for 5 marks in theory they will also ask this diagram. Okay, so the diagram you have to draw and you have to label 8 labelings you have to do, because each labeling contains half a marks. Along with that they will also ask the explanation of this megasporangium or ovule, or they can ask for 3 marks about this diagram, embryo sac or female gametophyte, for 3 marks, either explanation or only diagram. Okay, the next they may ask about the function of filiform aperture. Okay, and how it is called 7-celled 8-nucleated. They can also ask for theory purpose. Okay, so we will little bit in details we have to go what happens during that process. Okay, when this gynoecium or pistils are very young, when these gynoeciums or pistils are very young, consider this is a placenta, Consider this is placenta. There is a outgrowth in the placenta. Okay, this outgrowth is act as primordial. Okay, and this outgrowth increases. This outgrowth increases and forms a ovule-like structure in a particular ovary. Remember, this will take place inside the locules. So, the first early stage, it is outgrow as a primordial. Then later on, it develops into a particular ovule shape. Here, it will be easily identified by these three regions. So, at the basal part is called funiculate. The basal part is called funiculate. The distal part is called chalaza, and the proximal part is called a micropyle. Okay. Now observe at a micropyle region, this entire, at initial time, this entire ovule is composed of parenchymatose cells. Some of the parenchymatose cells at the micropyle region, they differentiate into hypodermal cells. Hypodermal cells. I will explain the first process, then I will draw the diagram. Hypodermal cells. Later on, these hypodermal cells, they develops into archisporial cells. Archisporial cell. These archisporial cells are surrounded by the remaining cells called ovule primordiae or ovule primordial cells. Okay, these archisporial cells, they differentiate into sporogenous cells and parietal cells. Like that, in the formation of microsporogenesis, microspore or microsporangium, same type of cellular differentiation will occur. So the parenchymatose cells, they differentiate into hypodermal cells because they are lying towards the micropyle end. Okay, then they later on differentiate into archisporial cells. Archisporial cells splits into two cell line. One will become sporogenous cells and other will become parietal cells. So these parietal cells along with the ovule primordial cells, they become nucellus cells, and this sporogenous cells will convert into megaspore mother cell. From that, megasporogenesis process start. Okay, so in the diagrammatic representation, I will explain here. You see, it's a particular cell, so we can consider it as a hypodermal cell. From that reason, I will explain hypodermal cells. They differentiate into archisporial cell. And the archisporial cell, they are surrounded by which cell? Ovule primordial. These are ovule primordial, and this is called as archisporial cells. Okay, so these primordial cells, ovule primordial cells, they grow further. From the besides, there is a formation of integuments. So if you just tilt this diagram inwardly, so they are developing from here. Okay, so I'll just showing it opposite side. Okay, so like that, these are the ovules. Okay, so these are the ovules, and this is, remember, this is, I will explain, This is microphyll. This is microphyll region. Okay, now you understood? It is opposite direction. I have just tilted it 90 degrees. Okay, and now this archisporia cells, they divides into two regions. Now this is called parietal cells. This is called parietal cells. This is called parietal cells, and this is sporogenous cells. This is a sporogenous cells. Okay, remember. So these sporogenous cells will act as microspore mother cell, and later on these parietal cells along with these what are those? Primordial, ovule primordial. So they together they form a nucellus. They form a nucellus. Now this sporogenesis, which behaves as a megaspore mother cell, now it enters into megasporogenesis. Okay, so what is megasporogenesis? Megasporogenesis is a process of formation of megaspore from megaspore mother cell. For that this meiosis division take place. Okay, in a first meiosis, this megaspore mother cell, they divides and forms two megaspores. Both are called megaspore dyad. Both are called megaspore dyad. This is in first meiosis. In a second meiosis, there is a formation of four. There is a formation of four megaspore called megaspore tetrad. Okay, megaspore tetrad. So later on these three megaspores, they degenerates only to avoid polyembryony. Okay, only to avoid polyembryony, these three megaspores were degenerate, and only one functional megaspore remains. Okay, so this is the formation of megasporogenesis. Now from that functional megaspores, it transfers into female gametophyte. That process is called, I will explain here. Okay, so the process of transformation of megaspore to embryo sac is called megagametogenesis. Remember, these all are degenerated. Only one functional megaspore is left. So you can see that this is degenerated megaspore, and this is one functional megaspore. In that, a first mitosis take place in a nuclear region. You can say that it is a first Karyokinesis. Remember here there is no cytokinesis take place until the 3 mitosis or 3 karyokinesis take place. So in this formation of embryo sac or megagametogenesis, the karyokinesis is not followed by cytokinesis immediately. So there is just a free nuclear division. It's just a free nuclear division. So what is the first mitosis result? A cell with the 2 nucleus. Okay. Then the second, a cell with the 4 nucleus. In the third, the cell with the 8 nucleus. Okay, so these nucleus will move in the opposite direction. These 3 nucleus will move to the chalaza region, and these 3 nucleus will move to the micropyle region. As a result, they will be collected here and they will be collected here. The 2 remaining nucleus, they occupies at the central region, and later on there is a division of these or there is a formation of cell wall. As a result, you can see, as a result there is a formation of 3 antipodal cells at chalaza region and egg aperture at micropyle region, and these are central cell. These are called polar nuclei, which occupies at a center. Okay, so during or prior to the double fertilization, these 2 polar nuclei fuses. Prior to the second double fertilization, these 2 polar nucleus fuses and forms secondary nucleus or adventative nucleus. At that time, this embryo sac is called a 7-celled 7-nucleated stage. 7-celled 7-nucleated stage. So this is about megagametogenesis. Okay, this type of development is monosporic. Remember, monosporic. In 1950, Panchnan Maheshwari, he divided this type of embryo sac, divided the flowers embryo sac into monosporic type, bisporic type and tetrasporic type. Monosporic, bisporic and tetrasporic types. So what are these monosporic type, bisporic type and tetrasporic type? We will just discuss about that process in a chart, through the chart. So that will ask in neat purpose. Okay, so I'll just make a line. Just see. Okay, this is monosporic, bisporic and tetrasporic. Okay, this is MMC. I will write here MMC, megaspore mother cell. You will observe here, this is one functional megaspore mother cell. Here also megaspore mother cell, megaspore mother cell. First meiosis, meiosis 2. In a first meiosis, in a monosporic, what happens? It will divide into 2 cells. Okay, this is megaspore mother cell. Okay, megaspore mother cells, sporogenesis cells. First meiotic, 2 cells. Second meiotic, 1, 2, 3 and 4 cells. In here, megaspore. How many megaspores will be there? How many megaspores will be there? 1 functional megaspore. Okay, but in bisporic, they later on develops into, not sure this, they later on develops into embryo sac. They later on develops into embryo sac. Okay, embryo sac. Okay, in bisporic what happens? In monosporic, 1 functional megaspore give rise to embryo sac. Okay, so in bisporic what happens? In the first meiosis, there is a division of a cell, both by karyokinesis as well as cytokinesis. But in the second meiosis, there is just a free nuclear division. There is just a free nuclear division. There is no division completely like in the first monosporic division. There are no formation of 4 cells. There is just formation of 2 cells with the 2 nucleus. The next, only 1 will degenerate, and the remaining with the 2 nucleuses, they remains. It enters into the formation of embryo sac, and it will become 3 cells here and 3 cells, 4 cells, 3 cells here. So this type of embryo sac is developed. Okay, in tetrasporic type, there is no cytokinesis, or there is a formation of cell plate. There is just a free nuclear division in case of meiosis 1. In case of meiosis 2, and when it forms the megaspore, there is no degeneration of cells, because it itself remains, and when it forms a embryo sac, there are number of antipodal cells are present. Many number of antipodal cells with 1 central nucleus and 3 egg apertures. Okay, so this is the type of monosporic, bisporic and tetrasporic type of development. Okay, so in this we have covered both androecium as well as gynoecium, the formation of megasporangium, megasporium structure, megasporogenesis process, formation of microsporangium structure, and process of microsporogenesis. Okay, regarding this neat purpose, this bisporic, monosporic and tetrasporic, along with that whatever I have covered the points regarding this is also asked. Okay, I hope you will understand this concept. Thank you.